So here I am scrolling on BookTube as usual, and I come across Sue and Melinda's playlist, this big book summer for 2025. And I thought, I haven't read any big books. I'm a new reader. I started reading less than a year ago, September of last year. And I thought, this is my chance to read a big book. And summer is just starting. I had so many books on this list. I honestly jumped between a couple of them. I started reading another one, just read the first chapter. And I was like, nah, read another one, maybe read the prologue or the first line, but nothing stuck out more. Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. This 858-page tome of a book is a Western. I've never even read a Western either. Here's my take at a Western, a Pulitzer Prize winner, and of course, a big book to start the summer off. Hair in my mouth. Larry McMurtry's Lonesome Dove. It starts off in Lonesome Dove in Texas. And the two main characters, Gus and Captain Call, or Augustus and Captain Call, start off with just building their friendship. You see that for pretty much all of part one. You just see their friendship and their camaraderie as they were Texas Rangers together. And they kind of like kept the peace in, South Texas and Lonesome Dove and, the border of Mexico and all that stuff. You learn all about that. You learn the banter between them. So there's a lot of kind of love-hate, you know what I mean? They love each other as friends, and they kind of show that as picking on one another, more or less. Yeah, great relationship between them. Call being the more kind of reserved guy, but of course he's the captain. Augustus being the more, let's say energetic and kind of outspoken. I won't get into too much more. When I finish the book, I know it's gonna be great because everybody that has read this book loves it. And more specifically, my favorite person to watch on BookTube is Ian Goobley. We pretty much have the same taste, right? Stephen King, fantasies, sci-fis, even fiction stuff. So really kind of anything that he reads, I know is going to be good, especially if he loves it. And of course, he loved Lonesome Dove, as did everybody else. I actually went to the bookstore and multiple times, and they did not have this book. So I was that was the only reason why I wasn't reading it right away. Also because it's huge. So that was kind of intimidating, but I'm over it now. I immediately jumped into the next big book, which is in part 2. Stay tuned. So here I am. I went to the bookstore and they had a whole bunch of them. They had like 10 copies of this. So immediately I picked it up without even thinking about it. And I pretty much read it right away, which is pretty unique for me. I usually buy a book and it sits on my shelf here for a while. I got books that I've bought when I first started reading and I haven't even touched them yet. I try to make lists of this month I'm going to read this month I'm going to read that, and I never do. It's all just what I'm feeling right then and there. But boy, am I happy I got to this book. Stay tuned. This is a little bit more so of a review than a reading vlog, but you'll see some of that in here. So thanks for tuning in, and let's get to reading this book. I'm just shy of page 700, and I'm on chapter 87. It's kind of a long chapter. I have a thing for long chapters. Especially this one, the text is kind of small, the margins are smaller as well. So, 15 pages, it's a lot. But I'm getting near the end. I got that much left. I want to finish this today or tomorrow. Let's pound it out. And honestly, I hope things pick up more because 200 pages left, more or less. Let's get through this. We broke page 700 now. I swear I just read almost 10 pages of dialogue, and it didn't seem like it was needed. That's just my opinion. You know, they're just hanging out on the ranch. 700, I now officially got 158 pages, I think, to be exact. Whatever, 700, it's a milestone. Here we go. Wait, who are we talking about? Hold on. Yeah, I gotta, what? I gotta back up a little bit. I hate when you can't like flip the page. You're just like struggling with the page. Okay. What? Are you kidding me? This whole time. What? So... there is no way. Now she raised him? Okay. Wow. I literally just updated you guys on page 700. And page 700 is a banger. Like, that whole page, that one singular page, this whole time right there, that's 700 pages of time. Ooh, I don't want to spoil it, but wow. You know, it kind of is a slow burn. And on page 700, it made all 700 pages make sense. The relationship between certain two characters, in hindsight, looking back, makes so much sense because of that wild piece of information, two pieces of information actually, on page 700. I did not see that coming. And for those of you who have read the book, I'm talking about the part where the outfit shows up at Clara's house. Of course, they see Clara there, and Lorena is with them, and they're kind of just like spending some time there, just kind of getting to know them. And it was kind of like a shocker. It was in this chapter that they showed up, right? It was kind of a shocker, like they showed up and I was just like, oh, okay, what's gonna happen, right? But they knew each other. They all knew each other, and especially Clara and Call. That was kind of a shock, you know, like at the same time, it was kind of nice not for them just to show up and just start shooting and killing and coming in like they're, can I swear, like they're a badass, you know, and they kind of own the place. They came in totally respectful and they knew Clara. So you get kind of a little bit of history. They explain a little bit of the history between Clara and Call and Gus. And holy man, this conversation between Gus and Clara. Wow. And then they added, or Mr. McMurtry added, that's a spoiler, I can't. But then it makes me wonder, like, they said that Newt's parents died when he was 7, which is like old enough, right? Like you're old enough to like understand and like you can kind of be on your own more or less, especially in these days. Like these people are sheriffs and cowboys and getting married when they're, you know, 12, 13, 14, 15, right? And so the information that she gave, I'm kind of confused of like, how does Newt not really know you? You know, how does Newt not know Clara if he was 7 years old? Well, that's kind of throwing me off. Maybe I read it wrong. Maybe I was too focused on the other bit of information. So I had a wild day yesterday. I was hoping to finish Lonesome Dove. I am very close. I'm actually, last time I updated you was like page 700, I think. It was a pretty eventful page 700. Well, I'm on page 800 there, if you can see. Yeah, which is chapter 90 something, 97. So officially I got 800. I got 58 pages left. I really want to get on to my next book. Not that this is bad and I'm dying for it to end. Come on and finish it. I just can't. I've been putting off this book, the next book I want to read. I've been putting that off for almost a year. I've been reading, coming up on a year. September would be my year mark. And I bought this book pretty close to the beginning of that. But I am happy to announce that Lonesome Dove is getting incredibly good. Incredibly good. You know, page 700 was pretty wild, like I said in the last update. Now this one, 100 pages later, a lot has happened in that 100 pages. It's just a page turner. The climax is really coming, and I am quite literally reading this wide-eyed. You know, I can't believe what Larry McMurtry is doing to the events, how the story is unfolding, and also the characters. You know, I wasn't insanely attached to the characters. You know, I did like them, you know, like the character building in here is like, I'd say the main focus. But now it's like, okay, unpopular opinion. And I haven't really heard this from other reviews or things on YouTube or anything like that. But I think Clara is my favorite. You know, she's just like so strong and powerful, very independent and very much, you know, the wisest of the bunch. You know, anything that happens, good or bad, she has more or less experience with, and she has something to say about it. She has advice for it. She really keeps the group together. You know, she's really just that kind of staple. And yeah, I enjoy reading about her. And then I would also have to say that, you know, I was hit or miss with Newt, but I'm really enjoying Newt and how his kind of story is unfolding, like how it unfolded on page 700. But anyways, I'm going to stop rambling. Let's get this done. Let's continue. Well, it's done. I finished Lonesome Dove, and it's pretty late, way past my bedtime. I usually go to bed 9:30, 10. Yeah, I stayed up, and I actually needed a change of scenery. I took a drive, and I went to this like sightseeing parking lot spot where you just park your car and it's like a view kind of on the side of a highway, you know. So I went there and kind of just hung out while the sun went down, and I had about 30 odd pages left just after the update. Yeah, I just sat in my car and watched the view and read those last 30 pages. It got pretty dark, so I had to use my phone as a flashlight to finish it. And yeah, you know, I don't entirely know what to think of this book. It was almost 900 pages. I see why it won the Pulitzer Prize, but I truly believe Lonesome Dove deserved that Pulitzer Prize for the sole reason also that I rarely hear anything bad about this book. Everybody that reads it loves it, including myself. I will start by saying that I absolutely recommend this book. You need to read it. You need to spend your time with it, because it's not your typical 900-page book. The first 200 pages, 230 pages, which is part 1, is really just Gus, Captain Call, just being friends and showing their kind of daily lives. You don't really notice much of those 200 pages, right? As I was going through, I was just like, this is so much fluff, right? It is so much building on these characters that I easily thought could have been cut down. Getting to the end though, where you could even say the last chapter, the very last chapter, is made those 200 pages make sense. And I would say the last 100 pages or so, maybe 200 pages, right? At that page 700 mark. That's where it really brought everything together. And it was so beautifully done. It took 200 pages to do it. No, 158 pages to be exact. But it was so beautifully done. It was so tied together nicely. I have to say, I wasn't expecting the ending. Although, yeah, I did to a certain extent, but I didn't, right? Bits and pieces of it, they were still like, oh, okay, I guess we're going here now, right? And then it just ended. The ending of this book, I feel, should be like a classic ending, right? Like you hear those famous books that have like famous one-liners. The first one that comes to mind, obviously, because I haven't read a ton of books. We all know that the gunslinger has the best, arguably the best opening line of any book or series, let alone that. The man in black fled across the desert and the gunslinger followed. Incredible opening sentence. However, I feel like maybe something should be said about Lonesome Dove and the last sentence at that, because it kind of made me go, well then, right? Like look at the last page. There's not much on it. It's not even a quarter page, if that. I'm not going to read the very last sentence because I feel like it's just a spoiler, even though it really doesn't give much away. But yeah, that was kind of like, all right, you know, it feels like maybe like a poor action movie where the kind of superhero or like the main guy or whatever is like testing out some one-liners to be famous for, right? Everybody kind of just looks at him when he like tries a new one and it's like didn't really work that well, right? And they kind of just look at him like, nah. Never say that again, right? That's kind of what I felt like with the last line. Was I read that and I was like, oh, okay. The book ended, I guess. You know, like it was kind of like, That's really my only gripe, to be honest. It was like, here I am saying this should be a famous last line, but I don't like it. You know what I mean? But I feel it should be and maybe is iconic. I'll tell you though, being that this book was so long, and of course the main character, Call, he's there, you know, beginning to end. I never really liked Call, nor did I understand him much. You learn much more about him, again, at that 700 page mark. Like that page 700 was a wild one. The 2 bits of information there, and they carry on throughout the last 150 pages or so. Even then, like Call is just yeah, he's the boss, right? He's the captain of this outfit, but I just don't like him. He's so stubborn. He's so, in a way, like arrogant, I guess. And there were so many moments where it was kind of just like, do what I say and don't question me, right? And it gets them into a lot of trouble. For example, this whole book is at the fault of Call. The moment that Jake walked into Lonesome Dove and convinced them to cattle drive to Montana, and Call just says, okay, hey, round up the herd, let's go to Montany, right? That's how they say Montana in the book. It was just like, what? Like, why are you going? Anyways, is that a spoiler? I don't know. It's so late, I can't even think. But I will say it's a 5-star. It's a 5-star. I kind of told myself that a 4-star is like the perfect book or like the good book, but and then 5 stars is one where like just totally emotionally moves me, right? Like if the book makes me like literally weep, right? Like one moment I'm just reading a book, the next moment I'm like crying as if I lost a family member. And it has like that kind of ending that it literally emotionally impacts me. I love the characters of the story, and it coming to an end is just like, you know, traumatizing. To have so much love for the and connection to the character and the story at the end of the book, that will make it a 5-star for me. That didn't happen with Lonesome Dove. I didn't cry, you know, I didn't weep and like come to this whole thing. However, I still had that same emotion. You know what I mean? Like what Call did at the end, yeah, pissed me off a little bit, like why he did it. But then the book was so tied together so beautifully, and like I was following Call along during the last like 2 chapters. The whole time I was just like even a couple times I was like, oh man, that's so cool. Like it was just so peaceful how Call did that, or maybe said that, or like what is happening. Like a couple times I was like, man, that's just so wholesome. Like that's just so great, you know? So I still had that same emotion. I also have to say that this was a 1-month journey for me. Oh, that smells good. So much happened in this book, even like during the last chapter, you know, Call would say like, oh, I saw this. And I was like, oh yeah, that happened on their journey. I totally forgot. And then it brought me kind of down memory lane as if like I was on the journey too. And like I was going back and remembering, reminiscing about my journey that I've just taken. And I've done one like this. I lived in Ontario and I moved to Vancouver, where I am now. I remember when I got to Vancouver and this 3-day drive was over, right? And it was just looking back and going through my phone, looking at all the pictures of the road trip and the views and everything. I had that same thing with the book of when Call would kind of bring back some of those memories during the last 2 chapters. That's how it beautifully tied together, as if it was my journey and I was remembering what I just went through for the past month. And what a great story. So 5 stars. That's Lonesome Dove. I highly recommend it, like anybody else recommends on this platform. I'll leave it there. I'm tired. Stay tuned for actually book number 2 of Big Book Summer. Thanks for watching part 1. This was Lonesome Dove by Larry McMurtry. See you guys in the next one.